Friday night, 1992. Millions of American families gathered around their TVs for ABC's TGIF lineup, watching the Winslow family: Carl, Harriet, Eddie, Laura, and little Judy. The perfect sitcom family that made everyone believe wholesome values and unconditional love.
It's the bigger love.
But those millions of viewers didn't know. Behind the cameras, that perfect family was anything but perfect. It was about to destroy the life of its youngest member. This is 13-year-old Jaimee Foxworth, who played Judy Winslow. For 4 seasons, she brought joy to living rooms across America.
You're not gonna tell Mom and Dad about this, are you?
Not if the price is right.
Then, without warning, she vanished. Fans joked that Judy Winslow simply walked upstairs and never came back. But the truth behind her disappearance reveals one of Hollywood's darkest secrets about how the entertainment industry destroys the children it's supposed to protect.
You gave me 3 kids. You took away my baby. If you had taken away my oldest child, we could have always come up with an excuse that she was
We would have been happy.
That you took away my baby. And when I asked you, why did you take away the baby girl, you said nobody would notice.
From allegations of abuse and intimidation on set to a devastating spiral that led a former child star into adult films and addiction. This is the real story of how Family Matters became a family nightmare. When Family Matters premiered on ABC in 1989 as part of the network's iconic TGIF lineup, it represented something revolutionary for television. As a spin-off of Perfect Strangers, the show featured an all-black cast portraying a working-class Chicago family that broke away from harmful stereotypes of the era. The Winslow family seemed perfect on paper. Carl Winslow, played by Reginald VelJohnson, was a lovable Chicago police officer. His wife Harriet, portrayed by Jo Marie Payton, worked as an elevator operator. Their 3 children, teenagers Eddie and Laura, and 9-year-old Judy, represented the next generation of African-American television characters who were complex, relatable, and dignified. Jaimee Foxworth, who played the youngest Winslow child Judy, brought natural charm and comedic timing to the role. At just 9 years old, she was already a seasoned performer, having replaced another young actress after the pilot episode. Judy wasn't just a background character. She had her own storylines, relationships with her siblings, and moments that showcased Jaimee's talent. The show's creators, William Bickley and Michael Warren, had crafted what appeared to be television gold. Episodes focused on family values, problem-solving, and the kind of wholesome humor that made TGIF appointment television for millions of families. The Winslows dealt with real issues: school struggles, teen dating, family conflicts, but always found resolution through love and communication. For 4 seasons, this formula worked beautifully. The cast had genuine chemistry, particularly the sibling relationships between Eddie, Laura, and Judy. Jaimee's portrayal of the precocious youngest child provided heart and humor that balanced the show's more dramatic moments. But beneath the surface of this television paradise, darker forces were already at work. The entertainment industry's treatment of child actors has always been problematic, and Family Matters would prove to be no exception. What fans saw as a loving family was actually a workplace where young performers faced challenges no child should endure. The show's success masked the growing tensions behind the scenes. As ratings climbed and the series became a cultural phenomenon, the pressures on cast members intensified. For adult actors, this meant longer hours and higher expectations. For child actors like Jaimee, it meant navigating an environment where their youth made them particularly vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. The perfect family that America fell in love with was about to become the setting for one of television's darkest stories of how the industry fails to protect its youngest stars. The trajectory of Family Matters changed forever when a skinny 13-year-old named Jaleel White guest starred as Steve Urkel in what was supposed to be a one-time appearance. The suspender-wearing, nasally voiced nerd was meant to be a minor character who annoyed the Winslow family for a single episode before disappearing forever. Instead, Urkel became a cultural phenomenon that would reshape the entire series and ultimately contribute to Jaimee Foxworth's downfall.
Harv! Crank up the music! It's time to do the Urkel!
The audience's reaction to Urkel was immediate and overwhelming. His catchphrase, "Did I do that?" became part of the national vocabulary. His clumsy antics and unrequited love for Laura Winslow drove storylines that sent ratings through the roof. Network executives quickly realized they had stumbled onto something special. According to Jo Marie Payton, who played Harriet Winslow, the network called a meeting to inform the cast that the show would now revolve entirely around Urkel. This decision created immediate tension among the original cast members, who had built their characters and relationships over multiple seasons, only to watch them become secondary to a character who was supposed to appear once. Jaleel White later admitted there was a division between myself and the rest of the cast during this transition period. The shift wasn't just creative, it was mathematical. Television is a business where screen time equals importance, and every minute devoted to Urkel's antics was a minute taken away from the Winslow family's story. For Jaimee Foxworth, this change was particularly devastating. Judy Winslow had already been the least featured of the three children, receiving fewer storylines than her teenage siblings. With Urkel dominating episodes, her role diminished even further. Writers struggled to find ways to include the youngest Winslow in storylines that increasingly centered around Steve's interactions with Laura and his various misadventures. The show began adding new characters to support Urkel's expanded role. Waldo Geraldo Faldo, another dim-witted character, joined the cast to serve as Urkel's friend and comedic foil. These additions further crowded out existing characters, pushing Judy Winslow even further into the background. By season 4, Family Matters had transformed from an ensemble family sitcom into The Steve Urkel Show, featuring the Winslow family. This shift affected every cast member, but none more than Jaimee, whose young age made her least equipped to advocate for herself in an increasingly competitive environment. The writing was on the wall, but 13-year-old Jaimee couldn't read it yet. She was about to learn the harsh reality that in Hollywood, even beloved family sitcoms operate as businesses first. And when those business interests change, child actors are often the first casualties. While Jaimee Foxworth's departure from Family Matters remains the most visible tragedy associated with the show, recent revelations suggest the problems on set ran much deeper than anyone realized at the time. In shocking interviews, cast members have begun speaking about experiences that paint a disturbing picture of what really happened behind the cameras. Darius McCrary, who played Eddie Winslow, made headlines when he revealed to TMZ that he had been inappropriately touched by a Hollywood executive during his time as a young actor. While he didn't specifically name Family Matters or provide details about the incident, his admission shed new light on the environment child actors faced during the show's run.
If you're in this business, we've all at some point been inappropriately touched. At some point, even if it's a hug, even if it's a back rub.
McCrary's reluctance to provide specifics is telling. This casual acceptance of abuse as an industry norm reveals how normalized such behavior had become for young performers. For Jaimee Foxworth, these revelations provide context for her own experiences on set. While she has not made specific allegations against Family Matters producers or cast members, her later comments about feeling unwanted and disposable take on new meaning when viewed alongside McCrary's admissions. The culture of silence that McCrary describes was particularly harmful to child actors, who lacked the power, knowledge, or support systems to report inappropriate behavior. Unlike adult performers who might have agents, lawyers, or industry connections to protect them, Child actors were often completely dependent on the very people who were supposed to be protecting them. Industry insiders have long whispered about the unique vulnerabilities faced by young performers on successful shows. The combination of long hours, isolated work environments, and power imbalances created situations where abuse could occur with little oversight or accountability. These allegations cast Jaimee's sudden departure from Family Matters in a different light. Rather than simply being written off due to creative decisions, her exit may have been connected to a toxic environment that was particularly dangerous for the show's youngest cast member. The fact that she was removed so abruptly, without explanation or ceremony, suggests there may have been urgent reasons for her departure that went beyond simple storyline considerations. The pattern of silence, intimidation, and protection of powerful figures that McCrary describes helps explain why these stories are only emerging decades later, and why Jaimee herself has been reluctant to provide full details about her experiences on the show. The official story of Judy Winslow's disappearance from Family Matters has always been frustratingly vague. One day she was there, the next she wasn't, with no explanation offered to viewers or even to Jaimee herself initially. But the real story behind her departure reveals a calculated decision that prioritized business interests over a child's well-being. According to Jaimee, the decision to write off Judy came from producers who believed they could simply throw her away without consequences. In interviews with The Root, she revealed that some of her cast members knew before she did about her firing, suggesting a deliberate campaign to isolate and remove her from the show. Jaimee had been with the show for 4 seasons, growing up on camera and forming relationships with cast and crew. She was the family's primary breadwinner, supporting her mother and siblings with her income from the show. The sudden termination of her employment wasn't just a career setback, it was financial devastation for her entire family. Jo Marie Payton, who played Jaimee's television mother, reportedly fought behind the scenes to keep her on the show.
You gave me 3 kids. You took away my baby. If you had taken away my oldest child, we could have always come up with an excuse that she was
We would have been happy.
You took away my baby. And when I asked you, why did you take away the baby girl, you said nobody would notice.
Reginald VelJohnson also showed support, telling the young actress she was talented and beautiful, even as her world was collapsing around her. But their efforts were futile against producers who had already made their decision. The way Jaimee's departure was handled revealed the show's true priorities. Instead of a proper goodbye episode or storyline that acknowledged Judy's importance to the family, she simply vanished. Her final appearance was as a flower girl in her grandmother's wedding, after which she walked down the aisle and out of television history. Even more insulting was the show's continued use of Jaimee's image in the opening credits for several episodes after her departure. Viewers were seeing her face and expecting her presence while she had already been removed from the cast. This false advertising prolonged the confusion and made her absence even more jarring for fans. The psychological impact on 13-year-old Jaimee was severe. She began questioning her abilities as an actress, wondering if she had done something wrong or if she simply wasn't good enough. The show's refusal to provide a clear explanation left her to fill in the blanks with self-doubt and criticism. Jaimee's mother eventually had to explain what had happened, but even then, the family was left to speculate about the real reasons. The official explanation that Judy was no longer needed due to Urkel's popularity felt incomplete and insulting, given how abruptly the decision was made. The timing of Jaimee's departure, combined with the allegations of abuse and misconduct that have since emerged about the show, suggests there may have been more urgent reasons for her removal than simple creative differences. Her sudden exit may have been less about storyline considerations and more about protecting the show from potential scandal or legal liability. Whatever the true reasons, the handling of Jaimee's departure set a troubling precedent for how child actors could be treated in the industry. as disposable assets rather than young people, deserving protection and respect. After her devastating exit from Family Matters, Jaimee Foxworth's life entered a downward spiral that would take years to escape. At 13 years old, she went from being a television star and family breadwinner to being unemployed and struggling with the psychological trauma of rejection and abandonment by the industry she had served faithfully. The immediate financial impact was catastrophic. Jaimee's Family Matters salary had been supporting not just herself, but her entire family. When that income disappeared overnight, they faced poverty and uncertainty. Despite rumors of bankruptcy, which Jaimee denied, she admitted the family was completely broke at various points during this period. Desperate to recapture some form of success, Jaimee turned to music, forming an R&B group called SHE with her two older sisters. In 1997, they released an album titled Three's a Charm, but it failed to gain traction in the competitive music industry. The album's lack of success was another crushing blow to Jaimee's confidence and financial stability. By age 19, with few skills outside of acting and mounting financial pressure, Jaimee found herself facing impossible choices. What started as a swimsuit calendar photo shoot led to her involvement in the adult film industry under the stage name Crave. She appeared in several adult films, including titles that would later haunt her reputation for years to come. In interviews, Jaimee has described this decision as both practical and rebellious. Practically, it offered quick money when she desperately needed income. Emotionally, it represented a form of rebellion against the strict, wholesome image that had been imposed on her as a child star. After being discarded by family television, she was reclaiming control over her body and career in the most shocking way possible. But the psychological cost was enormous. Jaimee later admitted feeling ridiculous and degraded by her involvement in adult films. She hoped no one would discover her new career, but in the internet age, such secrets were impossible to keep. When the footage inevitably surfaced online, it destroyed any chance of returning to mainstream acting and brought shame that affected her relationships with family and friends. The transition from beloved child star to adult film performer represents one of the most dramatic falls from grace in entertainment history. But it also reflects the complete failure of the industry to provide support systems for young performers whose careers end prematurely. Jaimee was left to navigate this transition alone, without guidance, support, or resources to help her find alternative paths forward. Her involvement in adult films wasn't just a career choice, it was a trauma response to years of exploitation, rejection, and abandonment. The wholesome child who had brought joy to millions of families had been failed so completely by the system that was supposed to protect her that she saw no other options for survival. This period of Jaimee's life serves as a cautionary tale about the long-term consequences of how the entertainment industry treats child actors. The damage done to her on Family Matters didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It continued to affect every decision she made for years afterward. The trauma of her Family Matters experience and subsequent involvement in adult films led Jaimee Foxworth into a dark period of substance abuse and mental health struggles. By the 2000s, she was battling addiction to alcohol and marijuana while dealing with depression and social isolation that left her almost completely cut off from the outside world. Jaimee's description of her addiction reveals how substances became a way to cope with the shame and trauma she carried. Unlike recreational users, she was medicating deep psychological wounds that had never been properly addressed. Her depression led to extreme isolation, spending days alone in her bedroom, getting high and avoiding contact with friends or family. The turning point came when Jaimee realized she had completely cut herself off from meaningful relationships and was living in a self-imposed prison of shame and addiction. Recognizing she needed help, She appeared on VH1's Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew in 2008, taking the first step toward recovery.
The defining moment for me to stop using drugs was when I was pregnant and I started thinking to myself, okay, when your son is 2 months old, how are you going to be able to smoke weed and occasionally drink?
However, recovery wasn't immediate or easy. Jaimee admits she continued smoking marijuana for several months after the show ended, demonstrating how difficult it can be to break addiction cycles even with professional help. The final motivation for her sobriety came when she discovered she was pregnant with her son. The pregnancy represented a crucial turning point in Jaimee's life. Faced with the responsibility of caring for another human being, she made a promise to God that if he gave her a healthy son, she would stop using substances immediately. This spiritual commitment proved to be the foundation she needed for lasting sobriety. Michael Douglas Shaw Jr. was born on May 29, 2009, providing Jaimee with the motivation and purpose she had been missing for years. Becoming a mother transformed her priorities and gave her a reason to fight for her own well-being. The child who had been failed by so many adults was determined not to fail her own child. Unfortunately, even this new chapter brought challenges. Just 4 months after her son's birth, Jaimee was forced to file a restraining order against her boyfriend, alleging physical abuse. This pattern of troubled relationships reflects how childhood trauma often continues to affect adult relationships, making it difficult to establish healthy boundaries and connections. Despite these setbacks, Jaimee's commitment to her son and her sobriety remained strong. She learned to budget the residual payments she still received from Family Matters, using these funds to support her family while focusing on being a full-time mother. This financial independence, however modest, represented a form of stability she hadn't experienced since her acting career ended. The journey from child star to addiction to recovery illustrates both the devastating impact of industry trauma and the possibility of healing with proper support and motivation. Jaimee's story demonstrates that while the entertainment industry may fail to protect its young stars, recovery and redemption are possible with determination and the right circumstances. More than 2 decades after Jaimee Foxworth's departure from Family Matters, the show's legacy continues to be complicated by allegations and revelations about what really happened behind the scenes. The pattern of abuse and misconduct extends beyond Jaimee's experience to include other cast members, painting a disturbing picture of an industry that consistently failed to protect its young performers. The domestic violence allegations against Darius McCrary, who played Eddie Winslow, have surfaced repeatedly over the years. His ex-wife Tammy Bronner obtained a restraining order against him in 2017, alleging multiple incidents of abuse, including holding their infant daughter over a pot of boiling water while screaming about wishing she had never been born. These allegations were preceded by similar claims from his previous wife, Corrine Steffens.
And welcome back. Was Darius McCrary, aka Eddie Winslow, former actor on Family Matters star, he was arrested for failure to pay child support.
Even Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel, faced accusations of domestic violence from his former girlfriend Bridget Hardy in 2012. Hardy claimed White became violent after discovering evidence of infidelity, striking her and pushing her into a toilet hard enough to break it. While White denied these allegations, they add to a troubling pattern among Family Matters cast members. These revelations suggest that the toxic environment Jaimee experienced on set may have had lasting effects on multiple cast members. The combination of childhood fame, alleged abuse, and lack of proper support systems appears to have created trauma that continued to affect their adult relationships and behavior. Perhaps most telling is how the entertainment industry has continued to exclude Jaimee from Family Matters-related events and reunions. When Entertainment Weekly organized a cast reunion photo shoot in 2017, Jaimee was notably absent despite being an original cast member for 4 seasons. The magazine's decision to exclude her, while including other cast members, sent a clear message about how the industry views performers who don't fit the preferred narrative. Jaimee's response to this exclusion was dignified but pointed. She noted that if adult films were the reason for her exclusion, she wasn't the first person to do adult films and won't be the last. Her observation highlights the industry's selective moral standards and willingness to punish those who have been most victimized by its failures. The ongoing pattern of exclusion and silence around Jaimee's experience reflects broader industry problems with accountability and justice. Rather than acknowledging the failures that led to her downfall, the entertainment establishment has chosen to erase her contributions and maintain the fiction that Family Matters was nothing but wholesome family entertainment. Today, Jaimee focuses on raising her son and living what she calls her best life. She has found peace and purpose in motherhood, using the hard-learned lessons of her past to guide her decisions about the future. Her journey from child star to adult film performer to recovering addict to devoted mother illustrates both the devastating impact of industry trauma and the possibility of healing and redemption. While the entertainment industry may never fully acknowledge its failures, Jaimee's survival and success as a mother prove that victims can overcome even the most systemic abuse and neglect. The truth about Family Matters may be darker than fans want to believe, but it's a truth that needs to be told. Not just for Jaimee's sake, but for all the young performers who continue to navigate an industry that has yet to learn from its past mistakes. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.